Good afternoon and welcome to the 5th strategic webinar in the EUROCONTROL Stakeholder Forum series. My name is Paul Bosman. I'm the head of the infrastructure division, basically dealing with anything that's to do with technology and the stakeholders. And I'm your moderator / entertainer for this afternoon. Today we will be focusing on cybersecurity, exploring its impact on our business, certainly at times when in these times of the pandemic and the crisis, we're all short of cash, and so we are increasingly under attack, and so we thought it would be very relevant to have a chat all together about this important topic. We will do this with our distinguished guests and panelists that I will soon introduce to you, but before that, we start with some housekeeping. This session is as much as possible an interactive session. However, with so many hundreds of people on the line, what we could not do is activate the talking and videos for all of the participants. That is limited to only the panelists. However, each of you can communicate with us and with each other through the chat as well as the QA. The chat function is the window that you see to your left here, is used for at the moment that you have any technical issues. The sound is not working, you can't see the screen well, etc. We can't promise that we solve all your problems, but please post those type of problems there and we'll give it all our best. In the Q&A, we ask you to ask your questions related to the content of this webinar. We'll do all our best to make sure that our panelists answer your questions. But again, if too many of the questions are coming in, we can't then maybe unfortunately not pick up on all of them, and we'll see how we can deal with that after the session. Talking about after the session, the slides, as well as this recording, as well as the questions asked, etc., will all be published on our website afterwards. Another element that I would like to draw your attention to is that in the Q&A box, we have activated the function that you can, so to say, like any question that you think that truly merits to be answered by the panelists. Yeah, so please keep an eye on the questions already asked, and if that's something that's really highly relevant to you as well, don't hesitate to click the like button. When you are asking a question, please indicate from which organization you are, so that the whole audience can see from which perspective, from which angle you are asking your question. And as you also will see in a minute, we have divided this webinar in 3 main themes: financial, operational, talking to senior management. Please focus your questions within the theme that we're covering at that very moment. Yeah, I hope this is all clear for you. And with that said, I then move to our distinguished panelists. We are extremely privileged to have these 3 persons live with us from the different corners in Europe and beyond. And I would like to start by asking each of them to just quickly introduce themselves so that we have a feel for who we're having on the line today. Carol, if we can start with you.
Sure, and thank you very much for your kind introduction and for inviting me to participate in this very important seminar and discussion. So my name is Carol Sharkey. I am the Director of Safety and Security and Chief Risk Officer with Ryanair. I've been in Ryanair since 1995 and have held numerous positions within the in-flight, flight operations, and now safety and security departments. So in my role, I look after operational risk, and my team and I therefore oversee the safety management system, security management system, and compliance monitoring system. So I would love that we could all be in the room together, hopefully sometime soon, but nonetheless, I am very happy to be here. A word of caution, I am not a technical expert. So if you believe that your computer has been hacked, I'm not the right person to call on. But we have teams of people, and I hope to be able to describe those processes to you today. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Carol. And just for everybody to tell you how competent these people are, only a few minutes before we started this webinar, Carol was still having issues connecting because of a too tight security system, and your experts indeed were able to solve it very quickly. So again, we're very happy to see you here. Rowie, as our next panelist, can you please introduce yourself as well?
Yes, thank you, Paul. Again, thank you very much for having me in this very important forum. I am Roy Laufer. For the past 6 years, I've been heading the cyber division for the Israel Airports Authority. Previously, I held quite a few CISO positions in a global high-tech organization, a financial institution, a governmental institution before that. A few words maybe that would be interesting. The Israel Airports Authority is quite unique in the aviation landscape, since we do not only control and manage and operate the international airports and domestic airports, we also are in charge of the land border crossings, and we are also our own ANSP. We actually manage the airspace. So from a cyber perspective, this gives us quite a few challenges. On the other hand, it gives us a unique, holistic overview over the entire operation. By the way, if you're having technical issues, I might be able to help. So, and the issues that Carol had, it was actually us. So again, thank you very much. Very excited to be part of this interesting forum.
Okay, thank you, Rowe, and be careful what you ask for. I mean, if we're running short of questions, we may pop up one or two true technical ones. Okay, let's move on to the third and last speaker, Laurent.
Yeah, hi, Paul. Hi, everyone. So I would like also to thank you for the invitation and the opportunity to participate to this event. So I'm Laurent Guérin. I'm the Deputy Chief Information Officer for Airbus Corporate Security. So I'm 47. I've been working for more than 20 years in the Airbus group, so mainly for security topics and mainly homeland security topics and businesses. So I belong to an organization which is a corporate security organization. So within Airbus, we have a central organization dealing with all security topics, physical, cyber topics. And we have the scope of this organization is all Airbus facilities and all Airbus employees all over the world. So it's quite a lot of people and a lot of countries. And we address not only IT cybersecurity issue, but also manufacturing, product and services, and people and facilities.
Okay, thank you, Laurent, and thank the three of you for quickly introducing yourself. I think you would all agree that we really have a remarkable set of speakers with us today. We have at the moment more than 400 people on the line. The number that you see in the Zoom session is only part of the audience that's connecting at the moment. So again, we have more than 400 and the number is still going up at this moment. So I think that's really fantastic to see. And I think most important as well is that cybersecurity is very, very popular. It is nearly a hype. I don't know how it is for you, but me in my current job, I get bombarded by so-called experts, consultants that are willing to sell me technology kit to make us a safer and more secure place. However, when we start talking to those people, they quickly run out of depth on truly the topics. I think with the three speakers that we have today here, we don't have people that talk about cybersecurity, we have people that do cybersecurity. And I think that will be very welcome to listen to hear their lessons learned, their best practices, etc. Finally, as well, when you are asking questions, as well as for the panelists, by the way, if you could be careful in the usage of your acronyms, because again, this cybersecurity domain is not short of it. And so please be helpful to all the to the audience when you're talking about the more in-depth of the different cyber aspects. Now, as I mentioned, we are going to be dividing this session in three main themes. We start talking about the financial impact of cybersecurity on our operations and our activities, because it is our belief that the biggest impact of cyber and cyber attacks is financially. We have little or few evidence that there is a huge operational impact. Still, there is some, and we will cover that in the second theme of this webinar. And then probably the question that hangs in the air for most of you, how in the hell do I speak to my senior web management? How do I get the right budgets to keep myself safe, etc.? How do I go about in doing all that? So again, we start with the financial impact, where we have about 20 questions, 20 minutes to cover this topic, and then we move to the next one. Now, in order to kick off the debate, we would like to show you just a quick slide. I mean, what we are seeing is that the aviation sector worldwide is losing billions, if not tens of billions of euros and dollars due to cyber attacks. If you have difficulty believing us in this number, I just refer you to our 2020 report on cyber in aviation. It's freely available on our website. We will post the link as well in the Q&A chat. And again, there is all the evidence there that cyber is truly having a huge financial impact on our business. So the question then asks, so how does this look like for each of our three different panelists? First question therefore for you, Carol. How does that work for Ryanair? What are the financial issues that you see when it comes to cyber? Are you worried or impacted by ransomware? Do you, and again, it's a bit tongue-in-cheek, are you confronted with fines because of private data breaches? Do you have many websites, fraudulent websites trying to impersonate Ryanair? Do you have unhappy employees, as we all have? I mean, how does the financial impact of cyber looks for you?
So thank you, Paul. So I think it's probably important that yes, of course, we're a big airline, and like everybody else, not only in the industry, but beyond, we are faced with risks associated with a cyber attack. And, particularly in the current climate, the biggest crisis that we have ever faced in our industry, that being COVID-19, there are challenges that we need to face. But I think in preparation for a return to normal operations sometime soon, hopefully, we need to remain focused on those risks and to understand that, yes, there is the financial implication of it potentially for a breach of personal data, for example, or as we have seen in the media frequently, or in our case, an operational disruption of service, which I know we'll discuss later. I think probably it's more appropriate to focus on how we identify in the company what those risks are and how we manage them. And I think cybersecurity is a key part of the Ryanair business model. So all decisions are taken with the full knowledge of the potential risk that we face. We've invested heavily in cybersecurity and can see the benefit of it. So sort of unlike the traditional airline where we would have seen lots of pilots and engineers and things like that in the old days. Of course, we still have pilots and engineers managing the systems, but we also have this new breed of smart, clever IT experts that are developing systems to keep us safe. So in Ryanair, for example, we have approximately 500 highly skilled IT professionals working in a dedicated hub called Ryanair Labs. And they are led by a chief technical officer, and they encompass a cyber security team. So aimed at protecting the company, protecting our passengers, protecting the business and our people. And I think the important thing about having it in-house is that you are developing systems, you're monitoring systems, you're liaising with third-party providers, all the time thinking about the security controls that we need to have in place and preventing a breach, aimed at preventing a breach. And I suppose because the systems are being designed in-house, we also have this, it's a classic example of security by design. So I think in aviation, and airlines have lots of experience of managing risk over the years. Again, traditionally in the areas of aviation safety and security. And the criteria that we're applying in Ryanair is exactly the same for cyber security. You've got to have clear, unambiguous policy, robust risk management, assurance, both internal and external, and promotion. And I think one of the things that we should focus on in today's meeting actually is that promotion and how we make sure that in our case, our 16,000 employees dotted throughout Europe and beyond understand the risk that we face and know how to mitigate same. And we've done a huge amount of work to continuously improve the culture within the organization. So yes, like every company, in summary, we do face the risk, and there are financial and operational implications and impact. But I think that the key here is to have a robust, effective, demonstrably effective internal control systems with very clear goals and objectives to avoid the breaches insofar as possible.
Yeah, thank you very much, Carol. I'm seriously impressed, and you make it sound all so easy. And I think that's certainly something that we all a bit envy, so to say. Again, in terms of the types of different cyber attacks, which type of cyber attack really has the biggest impact financially from your perspective?
I mean, potentially, obviously, a data breach we have seen in the media is significant, but equally, any sort of attack that would deny service for an airline would be very significant for us. If we found ourselves in a situation, as with any airline or any service provider, I mean, EUROCONTROL, we all are aware of the fact that if we have some sort of a breach that stops service for a period of time, that is a significant issue for an airline and anybody in the industry and beyond.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. And let's move on now to ROE. And again, we have a special slide for you as well. I mean, on the side of the airports, the ANSPs, again, we would like to understand what are truly your major issues when it comes to the cyber attacks, etc. What financially, again, is the biggest impact on you? Is it ransomware? Is that where you lose money, where you potentially lose money, etc., or whatever else it could be for you?
Well, if you don't mind, I'd like to go back a bit and discuss the current climate, that being COVID-19. Actually, the first major sector that was hit was the civil aviation industry, and within that, the airports. We obviously have halted our entire operation, and this has tremendous impact on the resources the organization has in general, and specifically the resources that the cyber division has been allocated with. Now, this brought us to a situation in which it actually limited our response capabilities. Meaning, every time we come up with a vulnerability, or we discover a certain vector that is worrying us a bit more, what we usually or typically would have done is we would have done a quick market survey, understand what the technologies and methodologies are out there for us to adopt, and as quickly as possible respond in mitigating that specific vulnerability. The lack of resources brought us with trying to become a bit more creative in the way that we respond, leveraging our current infrastructure, and in places where it is not possible and we don't have the resources in order to approach that with technology, try to come up with compensating controls in order to achieve that. The lack of resources is as problematic as that is, the main issue was for us to try to communicate to management. And I know there's a whole different section on that. But the main thing to understand is that the cyber operation is not reliant on the number of passengers. Even if the airport does not have one single passenger, the cyber issue is still well on the table, and we need to approach that. And that's very, very difficult for management. We'll discuss that in a bit later, but that's difficult for management to understand. Now, we approach the cyber threats a bit differently. We look at the cyber vectors and the cyber actors. Cyber actors being a strategic Israeli facility, we look at the entire rainbow of threat actors, from script kiddies and hacktivists to nation-state sponsored cyber attacks. The threat vectors are very different, could be via email, could be via websites, could be via mobile. The vectors are really, really numerous. Ransomware for us, I gotta tell you that I know it's a headache for most organizations, not only for the civil aviation related organizations, but quite differently from other types of incidents. This is an incident in which you can prepare for. It's all about backups. It's all about testing your infrastructure, making sure it's resilient, making sure that you have mapped your assets, making sure that you have a very clear documentation of your network and topology. And that's why I know it's maybe the answer is not what an orthodox answer might look like, but ransomware for us is it's, again, knock on wood, once you get hit by ransom, that's not a pretty sight, but that's quite differently from other types of attacks. This is a type of an incident in which you can prepare for. Obviously, preparing for that, and that's an egg and a chicken kind of situation, preparing for that takes resources. And the current climate, that's an issue again. So yeah, it's quite difficult for us to operate right now. We're really leveraging what type of infrastructure we have in place, really being creative with the type of compensating controls we put in place, and trying to prepare ourselves for the next cyber threat that might come our way.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. So we've learned already something new. We talked about cyber actors, cyber vectors. It already starts to sound as well about more like work, analyzing all this information and data and intelligence, etc. And there is not a single thing, if I can summarize, there's not a single thing that is really your biggest financial threat, but it is really it's the overall package of all the different things that can come to your under which attack you can come, and that you really need to be aware of. Okay, I'll come back later as well about what you say it's not related to the number of passengers, etc. But before that, I would like to turn to Laurent. Laurent, you in Airbus, you run a very different type of operation. Airbus, 130,000 employees, if we counted it well. You're in so many different countries, so many different continents, etc. What is it for you? I mean, you're a big industrial conglomerate. You have a lot of IPRs. What is your true worry? Is it data theft? Is it people trying to steal your unique know-how? Or is it the fact that you're working with subcontractors as well, that you've got insiders maybe that are trying to enter your systems? Or again, ransomware. Again, I come to this term of ransomware because we read about it so much in the newspaper, and we just wanted to get a feel how much is this now really the problem in aviation. But again, it may be something completely different. Laurent, what's your view on all this?
To be honest, we are worried with everything you are mentioned. Everything is high risk. So I was thinking maybe it could be useful to share with you the way we perform the impact analysis on the, some idea of the methodology we are using to assess the financial risk and the other risk that could be the image risk and things like that. So every decision we are taking on cyber are based on a risk analysis. Okay, and so we have very detailed method to perform risk analysis and so on. That's clear. But we try to keep on three main domains for the risk analysis, which are what we call CIA, so not the US intelligence agency, but confidentiality, integrity, availability. So each time we assess a risk to compute the potential impact, we look at those three aspects. So confidentiality is the loss of data exfiltration. So it could be the loss of IP, as you mentioned. So the design of equipment, an architecture of an aircraft, it could be the loss of a piece of code, the loss of an algorithm, and the loss of knowledge, I mean, expert knowledge. So this one is difficult it's difficult to measure the financial impact of the loss of an algorithm or something like that. It could be very useful for competition because they could make progress faster than us on some topics, but it could have a huge impact, but it's not easy to measure the impact. We could have a loss of internal information, I mean a contract, some legal information, things like that. So that could be serious. We have GDPR issue, of course, like everyone. So we are very cautious with that because the fee could be very high. And we have two other things because, you know, we are dealing with military aircraft too, and military helicopter and military equipment for the Defense and Space Department. So we have issue with export control and military classified information. So if we lose those data, we could have also issue with nationality and so on. So that's for the confidentiality part. For the integrity, it's the hypothesis of an attacker modify some information inside our system. So it could be a modifier of the dimension of an equipment in our SAP system. It could be like, for example, the alteration of financial figure before the annual result. So you can guess what will be the impact on the stock market if the figures we deliver are not the right one. So we have method and we have security to check that. It could be encryption related to ransomware, but I will conclude on the ransomware. And it could be even adding false information inside the system. So you could create a lot of mess because of that. And the last one is availability. So availability is the system are down. So it could be a production line is down. It could be the aircraft are on the ground because one of the service mandatory for the aircraft to fly is down. So it's a top priority for us. It could be related to a deny of service. You know, there are some attack or you send a lot of requests to a server on the server crash. So deny of service. Many things like that. So for each and every risk, we are assessing the impact of those three elements: confidentiality, integrity, availability, and we check for each of them if there is a financial impact, an image impact, an impact risk for the people, of course, and so on. So you were mentioning ransomware. Ransomware address a bit all of three because in the past, ransomware they were only between bracket encrypting the data and then asking for a ransom in exchange of the data. Nowadays, they are doing more than that. They encrypted the data, but before that, they stole the data because they want to sell them on the black market. So you also have confidentiality issue. You could have huge GDPR issue because if they stole a database with HR, things like that. So all the company have those issues. It's not specific to Airbus, and that's clear. But ransomware is a strong concern. But as a ROI, we can prepare. We have some security measure, and the most important is to be able to recover as soon as possible.
Mm. Okay,
that's the priority for us.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Laurent. And I think again, what we're learning from this is that again, the cyber threat landscape is very wide, and there is really no stone that you should leave unturned in your chase for really finding all the different problems, etc. But I think what you're bringing as well to the table, Laurent, is that by a methodological approach, you can start to get a handle on the whole situation. We're starting to get some good questions already from the audience. And by the way, people, we are more than 1,000 at the moment online. So this is, I think, showing how topical this subject is. From one question that we get, do we have a unit cost that says, let's say 10 minutes or 1 hour of cyber incident is costing so many euros or dollars? Maybe Carol, maybe Roy, whoever wants to come in. Do you have do you, in your own management system, do you put a number to these things?
Yes, of course. There is a financial model, and we actually are able to put $1 into each minute of downtime in which the airport doesn't operate. For us, it's a bit it's a bit more of concern because there are not a lot of gateways by air out of Israel. There are only 2 international airports, and each time the airport is not operational, it has tremendous impact. So that's why we're using, by the way, these models are well published. It's not something you need to investigate by yourselves. And we adopted a model that we saw fit. Obviously, you need to customize it per your business context and the way that you operate. But the answer is definitely yes. We are able to put a financial number. By the way, if you're moving towards a cyber insurance, then this is something that you would have to do. Mm. So yeah, the answer is yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And Carol, any view from your side on that?
Look, yes, of course, it's all part of our management process and risk management process. Probably not appropriate for me to go into the detail here, but yes. But one thing, Paul, actually that strikes me as I listen to my colleagues speak is the importance how we share, similar issues across the industry and similar concerns. And I think it is worthy of note that the likes of the Aviation Information Sharing Analysis Centre, so Aviation ISAC, and indeed EUROCONTROL as well, where we can actually communicate and share information about threats, best practice, mitigations, etc. I think it's important to note that we compete on many things. So we compete, commercially, absolutely. But when it comes to aviation safety, security, cyber, we don't compete, and we can learn a lot from each other and that information sharing process.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that's really key to it. And again, with let's say again more than 1,000 people online, I think we would have all the opportunity to really team up and really start sharing more our lessons learned, our best practices, our intelligence, etc. And maybe another a follow-up question a little bit to you, Carol. I mean, as I heard in your job title, you deal not only with the cybersecurity, but also with safety. I mean, in the safety area, we are all very familiar with the safety culture, even the just culture, etc. How do you promote a cybersecurity culture in your environment?
Yeah, so look, it's a challenge, and I think that you can invest very significantly in technology to address this issue. But actually, the most important thing are your people. So when we talk about the people, we talk about two levels nearly. So you have the senior management level, where it's absolutely critical that we have very visible, unambiguous commitment across the board. So for safety, security, and cyber, with a clear set of goals. In Ryanair, we have a corporate safety strategy, which is a 4-year document that sets the goals of the company. So where we would like to see improvement, or areas that we would like to focus more attention on. It serves two very good purposes. The first is internally, we are very clear throughout the organization as to what our goals are, and we're able to communicate them externally. And also the document is approved by the board of Ryanair prior to publication. And both cyber and insider are embedded in that document, and what we will achieve over a 4-year cycle. So that's that very significant commitment that we have. And then we have probably the most important, in fact, absolutely the most important people in the process, and that is our people on the ground. And there are far more of them, as I said earlier on, approximately 16,000. And how we actually raise awareness amongst those individuals is through, for example, we have a TV station dedicated to safety and security, where we share cyber information. And it is displayed at every location from which we operate, and also on all of our people's personal electronic devices. So we found out a long time ago that, constantly writing to people in the modern era is not as effective as putting up videos and live messages. We also have significant online awareness training for all of our people. So how the very important role that every individual plays in protecting the company. And we also do regular testing internally. So, phishing attacks and things like that. And they're very effective, because nobody wants to be the person who presses on the link, after being promised €100,000 or even €1,000, because we all know there's no such thing as a free lunch, don't we? So yeah, like the culture has significantly changed. It's a talking topic in Ryanair. I think, outside the company as well, in our personal lives, it's becoming a big focus area in our bank dealings and everything that we do. So yeah, we focused an awful lot of attention and had a very successful run of that awareness training. But I think key to this is not stopping, because the day certainly that we think that we're done and we don't need to continue to develop or to engage with our people is the day that we fail. Yeah. As I say, that there's lots of technology, and we can roll out 2-factor authentication, everything like that, but our people are really key to the success of this system.
Yeah, and I think that's really where the parallel is, and as well with the safety culture. I mean, it's all about the people, and I think that's great to hear how you have embedded that in all your processes, etc. Laurent, how does that work for you? Again, 130,000 people. How do you get them all made aware? Do you do videos as well, or how do you?
Yeah. So I will totally agree with what Carol said, which is our first layer of defense are the people. That's clear. So we have multi-year awareness program to develop the right culture of cybersecurity within the group. And we address all the population all over the group. This means we address people working in manufacturing up to the top management. So we have dedicated training session. We have a cybersecurity month, which is October each and every year, where we have dedicated event with you can guess that the CISO team is very involved on that. So we invest a lot with the support of our top management and awareness, because the employee are our best champion for cybersecurity. If they have the right reflex, if they identify all the threat and so on, it saves us a lot of issue later on. So we have a dedicated corporate team for awareness and training also, because for a specific profile we need more than awareness, we also need training. The difficulty we have, to be honest, is the full digitalization and the fact that the people, they do less and less difference between their personal devices, talking about smartphone, and the professional one. And we need to make clear that you do not behave the same way on a professional mobile than on a personal device. So the borders are less clear than before, and we communicate a lot on that. Be careful with your professional mobile. It's not like your phone talking on WhatsApp and things like that.
Yeah, I think it's also very much about giving this type of practical tips and tricks to your staff that can really already prevent a lot of things. Okay, Rowie, you want to come in as well on this one?
Yeah, thank you. Echoing what my colleague said, I think there's one challenge that we have been facing with is the fact that most employees in an airport specifically do not even have access to computers, do not use personal computers in an office on a day-to-day basis. And we keep in mind that those employees are employees that we need to be able to raise the level of awareness with, even though they're not using computers as part of their role. What we do then is a couple of things. One, we actually run lectures talking about issues with privacy, for example, on mobile devices. We don't, even though it's not really related to their day-to-day operations, we want to keep in mind and have them understand that cyber is an issue. Cyber is an issue that you need to keep in mind that might impact the organization, even if it's not specifically related to their line of work. Another thing that we've been doing with the airport directors are what we call business continuity plans, in which the trigger is cyber related. Meaning it's not about the way that our SOC or cyber experts respond to incidents. It's more of things are happening within the airport. The technical teams need to, the security teams, technical teams, operational teams need to try and mitigate and operate under those restrictions or issues that are happening. And all along the way, the trigger is cyber. What we're trying to achieve with that is to have them understand that due to cyber, there might be failures within the normal operations of the facilities of the airport. And again, pragmatically speaking, if there is a problem with one piece of infrastructure, a controller that keeps breaking up, the end state of what we want to achieve is having them pick up the phone and call our SOC. And having the cyber track run in parallel to the technical track. Meaning that all along the way, all along the time when the technical folks are trying to figure out if there is a technical root cause of the specific failure, the cyber track is running in parallel, trying to understand whether the cyber vector might have anything to do with that. And I think this is an important thing to keep in mind. The technical operators will not think of cyber when they have an issue on a day-to-day issue. Failures are happening all the time, every day. Electricity goes out. It might be cyber related. At the end of the day, if those operators pick up the phone and call the SOC and have the cyber track run in parallel to examining the things from a technical perspective, then we achieved our goal.
Yeah. No, I think again these are very, very wise words from really showing that you speak from a very practical experience, so to say. By the way, for the whole audience, a SOC is a Security Operations Center. As I said, I will do my best to help you with the acronyms. Before we really move to the operational side of things, one last question. We are running here in EUROCONTROL as well a computer emergency response team, a CERT, for the whole of European ATM. And what we are seeing is a continuous increase in cybercrime activities. And certainly during this pandemic, COVID times, etc. Now, it may have to do with more of the hackers sitting at home, being bored, and just picking up some shitty software from the web, trying to use it. What are your views? Did you see an increase as well over the last year? And what are your predictions towards the future? Anybody wants to come in on that one?
Yeah, maybe I could start. Yeah, I would agree with you. We see more attack, and just to complement, maybe we detect more attack too, because we had previously a lot of attacks that were undetected. So we have a better detection system. So it's also a reason why we see more attack, but there is definitely more attack. And the point is that the attacks are more sophisticated. So this is something I already mentioned. We saw a change in if we talk about ransomware, 1 year ago, the ransomware were only focused on encryption. Now they focus on data exfiltration. So, and they are much more complex and much more sophisticated than before. But on the other side, we are better protected. We are better prepared. The people are fully aware about the risk. Internally, we made a lot of communication during the COVID-19 on the appropriate security hygiene at home, what are they allowed to connect on their computer and so on to prevent those attacks. We also have phishing campaign, like you mentioned, Carol, to test the people. So we are also improving. There is more attack, but we are also improving.
Yeah, and it's certainly a case. I mean, you can only improve what you measure. It's even with the COVID situation. The more tests you do, the better you understand what the situation is. Rowie, Carol, you want to come in on this topic, or?
Yeah, thank you. Actually, again, I don't really believe that we see more attacks. I think the answer lies on the other hand. The answer lies on the fact that the civil aviation as an industry is evolving. It's rapidly understanding that the cyber vector is very an issue that has been neglected, quite honestly, for a lot of years relatively to other sectors, financial, health, and so on. I think organizations are exponentially investing more and more in cyber. And that's why we keep hearing more and more about incidents. I believe those incidents have been around before. It's simply the fact that no one was looking for them. I think as long as our awareness keeps growing, we'll be hearing more and more about cyber-related incidents within the sector. But I think that has been around even beforehand. It's just the awareness that wasn't there.
Yeah. Okay. I hope you're right. So it's you're saying it's basically all about awareness and better measurement, etc. Although on the other end, we note as well that you were saying, okay, some of the attacks are getting more sophisticated, so we really can't let our guard go down. Let's move on to the next theme that we have in this cyber discussion, which is more on the operational impact. So on the one end, I mean, we see a lot of messages in the news, and it's always doom and gloom, because otherwise you don't get a head title in the news. We have reasons to believe that the true impact on operations for the moment is still quite limited. There may be disruptions, there may be delays, but there is certainly very little in terms of operational safety impact. And that, I think, is a very important message that we want to share and also want to discuss with you to see how you see that, because again, the financial impact is definitely there, but we also want to, I think, put the big flying public at ease that the operational safety risk that we see is truly limited. That said, of course, you have your cyber crime activities and your hacks on just your system because they're just hacking anything that comes across them. What we see initially is that we have our specific components in the aviation industry, and for example, the GPS signals, etc., the things that are so specific to aviation, or it could be our onboard equipment, etc., that those get increasingly under attack as well. So I think this is something that really we want to discuss with you as well, to make sure how are things looking like from an operational perspective, how worried should we be at this moment, and what are the things that potentially we have to do altogether. So for that, I think I'll start with Laurent. I mean, again, you guys are running the most amazing logistical operation when it comes into assembling an aircraft for the production lines from all over the world and into one place, etc. So how do you monitor and protect these things? You're working with so many suppliers and third parties. I mean, again, how can you keep that under control and keep an eye on it? Certainly, again, in the aircraft industry, it's not only about the pure IT, but it is also about the operational technology and the industrial control systems, etc. So, Laurent, how do you deal with that, and how do you see the operational safety risk from your perspective?
Yeah, so first I will answer about the manufacturing part, and then I will address the supply chain, which is by itself could be hours of discussion. So for the production, our main concern are threefold. So we want to keep the business continuity, product integrity, and compliance with regulation. So business continuity is we don't stop the production. Product integrity is, of course, the aircraft are safe, and compliance with regulations for certification. So there are some elements that are a bit specific, let's say, about industry. It's at first that some technology used are not used in the classic IT world. So PLM, SCADA, and things like that. And what is interesting in the manufacturing is that there is a very wide range of technology. So we had legacy system, but I mean really old system that are still running because we still have aircraft flying and we keep the system and so on. And we have, on the other hand, people working on 5G, IoT everywhere, full cloud solution and so on. So I can tell you it's a pretty challenging to address all those elements. So we have dedicated programs inside the group to address those elements. So we have dedicated program for production, because what we want to push is first to push technical solution, to have a kind of OT SOC or things like that, to monitor what's happening on the manufacturing side, but also to have a cultural change. Because in the IT, people are pretty aware of cyber element, but in the OT, and we already mentioned that, and Roy, you mentioned it when you said that there are people in the manufacturing, they don't have access to a computer, so how you address them. So we want to improve the culture of cybersecurity within the manufacturing to be sure they properly address everything. And classic reflex, you have people are working on a machine, they have a computer with a USB port, so they want to charge their mobile phone, right, they just plug it on the computer. That's all. So it's difficult to control that. So only the employee could have the right reflex to address that. So we have dedicated program for IT. In addition, for OT, sorry. In addition, we have a very specific organization for the manufacturing within the plant, and the FAL is the final assembly line. So the second part of the question was about the supply chain. So it's a long story. So the supply chain is a very complex question, because Airbus is based on a very complex logistic organization with thousands of supplier, partner, and so on. So how do we secure such an organization? So we have an approach, but before that, I would like to mention, for me, the supply chain is not something that we could solve alone. It's all the actors that need to work together to solve that. Because our suppliers, they are also the suppliers of other companies, of other customers, and so on. And it makes no sense if we ask them to deploy some solutions that are different from the one asking by a competitor, say another partner or someone like that. It's just not feasible. In addition, most of our suppliers, they are not, some of them are larger than us, but most of them, they are small companies. So they don't have the resources for that. That's all. I mean, it costs a lot of money. It needs the right people. We could talk about recruiting, because it's a real issue in cyber. So they need to find the right people. So it's complex. So the idea is to help them and to work together to define the right standard, some kind of not certification, but to ensure they have the right level. So our approach is twofold for that. First, we have an approach which is related to compliance. When we sign a contract with a supplier or a partner, we send a list of security requirements on the dedicated annexes, so they have to comply with. And then we could launch some compliance audit to ensure they comply with that. So the idea is that those security requirements are based on ISO 27 on standard, to be sure that the other customer of this supplier could ask the same thing. Okay, and the second point is that more and more the supplier, they are connected to our information system, because we need to move faster and so on. So we need to secure those connections. So it's classic, and it's not rocket science. So it's MFA deployment that's critical to stop a ransomware deployment, for example, because if one of your supplier is hit by a ransomware, how do you secure the link and how do you ensure the ransomware will not hit you? MFA is a good way to stop that. So we also help them to deploy technical solution, and in addition, we support them when they have an attack to be sure they recover as soon as possible.
Okay. Thank you very much for this. So what I hear again is I don't hear much about true operational safety incidents, accidents, etc. What I hear is that it's a lot about prevention, and there are many different schemes on the way that we can do this. We hear about the compliance. We hear about MFA, which, by the way, stands for multi-factor authentication. You also know this, I think, from your own home organization or from your own home environment, when you need to log into the bank and all of a sudden you need to grab your iPhone as well to make sure that you type in another number, etc. But I think the number of solutions to this is nearly endless, and just that we need to pick the right ones, embrace it, and really then push it through the whole chain and really make sure that we don't miss anyone out. Now, Rowie, you've started to talk already about your SOC, what is your Security Operational Center. I think it would be good if you could share a little bit further with the audience how that SOC operates. And we are particularly interested, how do you see the aviation-specific attacks? I mentioned here the GPS, signal spoofing and jamming, etc. Again, you are in a country or in a region of the world where you probably are under quite a number of attacks on all these things. And again, we would like to listen to you. How do you deal with that, and what are you experiencing? What are you seeing on a daily basis, so to say, in your SOC?
Sure. I can say that what I can say is the fact that we are quite challenged in a way of having cyber attempts against our facilities. It's been quite challenging. Again, keeping true to the pragmatic approach, it is important to understand that there is a very, very strong lack of proportions between the attack per se, or the incident, and the impact that it might pose on the day-to-day operations. What I mean is the fact that it doesn't take much to cause chaos. All you need to do is Chromecast yourself onto one of the displays in the terminal, and you can cause a lot of chaos within the terminal. It doesn't take much. So there's a lack of proportion between the difficulty of causing the issue and the level of complexity of a certain specific incident and the impact. Our basic assumptions due to that, or working assumptions, are basically two. One is the fact that we truly believe that there are two types of organizations: an organization that it's been hacked, and an organization that doesn't know it's been hacked. And this brought us to the second assumption, working assumption, is that we obviously are trying to prevent a cyber incident from happening within our facilities. We are also very much understanding that there is no 100% bulletproof program. Obviously, when it comes to cyber, that's very true. And that's why we are trying to minimize the consequences of a cyber incident. In order to do that, we set up some 5 years ago a Security Operations Center, a SOC, which monitors our entire infrastructure, all our facilities and computerized infrastructure 24/7. In that specific SOC, and we take SOC, Security Operations Center, quite literally. This is our operations center. So what we did there is, aside from the fact that we have a 24/7 monitoring services and the analysts are monitoring our entire systems and infrastructure and proactively engaging in whatever alert comes their way. We are also measuring ourselves through that specific SOC. We keep issuing reports about our compliance status, about the vectors that are most attacked. And these are the factors in which we know to allocate more resources in order to mitigate. What we do there, by the way, is we also understand that there will always be lack of resources when it comes to operating such a center. It doesn't really matter if you have 100 analysts or you have 2. There will always be a lack of resources, and alerts keep popping up. That's why we use a very, very unique approach in terms of automation. We try to, and as of now, by the way, as of today, we are responding to more than 64% of the alerts completely automatically. This leverages our ability to handle issues that any other way we simply wouldn't have looked at. We simply would have been able to respond to the amount of alerts that our analysts could handle. Again, it doesn't really matter how many analysts you have, there will always be a lack of resources. So we run automation. We run a 24/7 monitoring facility. And what we also do is even if there are no alerts that needs to be attended at that specific moment, we run what we call threat hunting. That's the difference between catching the fire when it's just a small fire in which you can extinguish quite easily, and a very large incident in which you need to handle in a very problematic manner. So we run threat hunting. We look for those places in which there might potentially evolve into an incident before an actual incident happened. By the way, this specific Security Operations Center integrates both OT and IT. We simply do not, we have an holistic approach towards security. We actually don't see any difference between IT and OT. In an airport, the systems are so interconnected in a way that you have programmed controllers and IT systems all interconnected into one infrastructure. That's why we have one SOC, one operation center, in which both OT infrastructure and IT infrastructure report to. Obviously, it's a different skill set. In order to mitigate or to analyze or run forensics on OT-related incidents and IT, that's a different skill set. But our analysts train for that, and we truly believe that this holistic approach allows us to look at the system and protect the system in a more efficient manner.
Okay, I think that's very, very interesting to listen to, and again, really coming from the field, so to say. As I asked as well before, and we see it coming up in the questions as well. What about the specifics of the aviation industry? What about the ATM CNS infrastructure? What about ADSB? What about GPS? What are your experiences on that?
Well, I can tell you that one issue or one difficulty that there's is all across the aviation sector is the fact that not a lot of systems have been designed with security in mind. A lot of those legacy systems in which Laurent mentioned before simply do not even have logs. We come across with the systems and aviation-related infrastructure that there are even, we couldn't even find basic types of security controls. On a brighter side, in the past few years, it's been relatively moving into the proper track in which security controls are kept putting into those systems. An airport is basically a part of the supply chain for the airlines. And in order to tackle a few of those infrastructure pieces or technologies that you've mentioned, there needs to be, and there is, a cooperation between the airlines and the airports in order to tackle those types of threats to those technologies.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. I think the main message that we get from that is that the whole ATM CNS infrastructure has not been designed with security in mind. And now that we're moving towards a further digitalization, I think we are looking significant investments to really make sure that we make it and keep it cyber secure for the future. Carol, we haven't forgotten that you're also on the line, but because we are getting towards the end of the session, what I would like to do now is that we move to the third and last part of the session, which is involving senior management. Now, we also from EUROCONTROL, we have tried different tactics. We first of all brought it to their attention that the cyber threat is a raising one. And we initially got basically the reply, it has never happened so far. Why would it start happening? Everybody loves us. Why would it happen to us, basically? Then we started to use another tactic and basically started to threaten them a little bit, or frighten them is maybe the better word, and giving them some doom and gloom pictures and report and examples from left and right. Again, that did not really do it. And then what we started to do from EUROCONTROL is we started to publish a series of reports where we collate factual evidence on what is really happening in the bigger world as well in the aviation world. And with that, at least in our environment, we're getting now good traction. But again, we want to listen to you. And there, Carol, I start with you. I mean, I think you've got the most enigmatic bosses out of all with Michael O'Leary. So how do you deal with it? How do you report to Michael about cyber? Or what tricks do you use? Or don't you report at all to him? Do you keep your head down? Again, you explained already how the thing is integrated in your business, decision-making, etc. But again, how do you really grab the attention of the top guys and persons in the organization?
I tell them Ryanair.com is down and we're not making money. I'm joking. No, look, I think the important thing is that the threat is understood and recognized, and that does take some time. And then that the right people are in the right positions where they can identify, carry out robust risk assessment, identify where we really potentially need to allocate resources or if indeed we need to increase resources. So the reporting structure is exactly the same as it is for aviation safety and security. We very much integrated. So direct reporting lines from the Chief Technical Officer into the CEO of Ryanair, Eddie Wilson, to the Group CEO, Michael O'Leary, identifying where the priorities are, and then a direct report into the board, at least quarterly, identifying how the system is maturing, how the allocation of resources has been effective, and where we might need to change. I think it's important as well in this context, not only to look internally to our own control systems and quality assurance systems or compliance monitoring systems, but also to look externally and to be able to provide an independent assessment of the maturity of our system. And that provides management, senior management on board with the confidence that we're addressing the right issues within the organization. I've already mentioned things like the corporate safety strategy, but that's a very public document where we are setting out our stall and identifying where we want to focus our attention.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds very normal, good business practice. But again, you just need to do it, and you need to really make sure that you put the processes in place to do it on a systematic basis. Laurent, turning to you as well, how do you engage with senior management? And again, senior management, again, in the Airbus setup, I think is quite a large one. So again, what are your best practices? What are your lessons learned from the field?
I am very lucky because my CEO, Guillaume Faury, is very supportive for everything which is cyber. He's asking a lot of questions. So this is very good because we have direct access. Our Chief Security Officer report directly to the CEO. So we have a bit of pressure too, but of course it's part of the game, of course. So we have monthly report to the CEO on cybersecurity topics. And we also have, as Carol mentioned, we have a regular report to the board of directors, which is also very useful. So we report to them the risk, the status, and so on. So, so this point is we didn't have to engage them; they were willing to engage with us. So we just need to keep the pace. And for that, what I push is a very clear message and a word of truth. We say exactly what are the risks we have, what are the measures we have, where are we weak, where are we late, and so on. So we give a very honest view on everything, because what I want is to build a trust relation. We already mentioned during this call that one day we will be hit by a ransomware. So it's let's say it's a matter of time. So you could prepare and so on. So the day if I hope not, we are doing a lot not to be hit, but the point is how long it takes to recover. But you can guess that if Airbus is hit by the ransomware, the board of directors and the CEO will be immediately engaged in that. So they need to be aware of what we are doing. They need to be aware of that we are ready to recover in a few hours, in a few days. So and cybersecurity will be on the table for a long term. This is not something we will get rid in the coming years. It will be a topic for many years. So our strategy is a long-term strategy. So we need to have a confidence, a trust relation with those people. And in addition, what I try to, I try because this is my team that are providing the report, we try to make them more aware of the context. So reporting the risk is fine with the impact and so on. But we also report threat intel information. We also report detailed information on how the attack are made. For example, we already made in the past a detailed report on how ransomware is made, who made that, what are the different phases of the attack, and so on. Because for them, it's easier to understand and to feel the real risk behind on the impact if they have the whole context of the threat we are facing, our status, and so on.
Okay, I think that sounds really, really practical, good, best practices, so to say. It's about open, transparent communication, building the trust relationship, and approach it, I think, from a positive mindset and not from a negative threat mindset. And I think that's
the issue I have is if you always complain that you have a high risk, and so on, after a while nobody will trust you anymore. You see. Because nothing has changed. It's high risk and serious. So the question is, how do we ensure a long-term relation? That's my objective.
So Roe, when you are in the elevator with your CEO and you basically have the 30 seconds to go to where you need to convince him to give more financing to your setup, what do you tell him?
With our CEO, it's more like 15 seconds. But I find, again, I'm coming back to previously I mentioned the Security Operations Center and the fact that aside from allowing us to monitor, detect, and respond in a close to real life, real time to cyber incidents, we leverage that in order to communicate with management, meaning that when I present to senior management and to our board of directors, I actually present real numbers. We actually present accurate numbers of incidents, accurate numbers of attempts, events, knock on wood, if should they happen. And I see it's the difference between trying to convince them of a threat that they understand is real, but they can't really capture how a cyber incident looks like, and actually showing them in real life, real numbers on how our facilities are being threatened, and that's key.
Yeah. So again, keep it factual, positive messages.
It's factual. It's not science fiction. It's actually happening. These are the numbers. Here are true events. These are the vectors in which we are more concerned with. These are the number of attempts against that, and I think that's key. An interesting fact is that we a few years ago we established a service to aviation-related stakeholders, providing the security operations centers for other facilities abroad. meaning that the same type of security operations center that we run internally, we actually provide as a service to other aviation-related stakeholders. And actually, some of them came back to us and actually said that they see the real difference between being able to present management with actual facts about the threats that our facilities are dealing with, and trying to convince them of something that no matter how much you try, will always sound like science fiction. So I think that's key in the way that we communicate. Another thing to remember is we communicate to management that there are two separate layers in dealing with a cyber incident. One is technical, and that's why the cyber division is there. The other is purely managerial. It's an executive issue. A cyber incident is not technical. A cyber incident is an organizational-wide issue. And we have a separate protocol, separate process for management in dealing with a cyber crisis. As part of that, I have a direct line with the CEO and the directing managers of the airports. So dealing with actual numbers and formalizing that in a managerial level process, that's how we approach management with that.
Okay, again, very wise words. I would like to thank you for that. And also, you somehow are able to tell all of that apparently in 15 seconds to your CEO when you're in the elevator with him. So again, I'm even more impressed. We're coming towards the end of this session. We got basically 3 minutes left. And I do want to pick up again on the 15 seconds, but this time a true 15 seconds. For each of you, and knowing that we have basically 1,500 people still on the line at the moment, you can give them one advice in 15 seconds. What is each of you giving as advice to our wide audience that we have here on the line? And Carol, I start with you again.
15 seconds, no pressure. Listen, I just can't stress enough the importance of building a positive security culture and awareness with a cybersecurity culture and awareness within your organization. Your people are your absolute strength. You can invest heavily in technology, and of course you must continue to do so. However, we must raise the awareness levels within our organizations, and we will reap the rewards.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Crystal clear message. Roe, again, a true 15-second there.
Back to basics. Back to basics. There are quite a few controls and operations that you can actually do in your own respective organization. It doesn't take a lot of resources. It doesn't take a lot of technology. It doesn't take a lot of persuasion. There are quite a few what we call quick wins, basic controls that you can put in place and that can tremendously increase the level of security for the organization.
Yeah, okay, keep it simple, get started, get on with it, is basically what we hear. Laurent, your last moment of fame.
Yeah, so I will repeat a bit what my colleague says, that focus on people and focus on the basics. Backup, patch your server, manage your identity properly. That's solve a lot of issue first.
Yeah, again, it's
classic, but it's working.
Yeah. Okay. Again, I think we thank all three of you very much for your very wise words. We thank the whole audience as well for asking the many questions, and we've done all our best to weave them into the questions that we're asking to the panelists, so to say. I mean, what basically the takeaway that we take from this session is, don't wait to be hit to act. I think, Roe, you said it very clearly. There's only two types of organizations, the ones that are hacked and the ones that don't know yet that they're hacked. And I think that really goes for all of us. Get going with it, keep it simple, and involve the human. Use any tool and method you can use. Go with the videos, like Carol also mentioned, etc. But please involve all of the different staff in your area. But also let's be recognizing that, again, the ATM CNS infrastructure in the aviation world has not been made with cybersecurity in mind. So we probably need to redesign a lot of things. We need to invest in these things. We need to see really where are our vulnerabilities. And again, I think that's what we got from you as well, is that you can only improve what you measure. So put in place the right measurements, try to understand where are your vulnerabilities, where are you being attacked, etc., and then start acting. And the acting, I think, is another strong message. Act together. Share the intelligence, share the best practices, share the lessons learned, etc. And I will just conclude then with a message of hope that we also got from Roe. The belief that we are not, that the number of attacks is not necessarily increasing. It's a hope, it's a belief, it's more a fact that we are measuring better. So again, well, let's see in a while where we are on all this. For this specific webinar, again, I'd like to thank you all very much for your contributions. It's really, truly appreciated. We from EUROCONTROL will be holding more webinars. We have one specifically on GNSS interference. And again, I can tell you already, you won't be liking a number of the things that we're going to be showing to you there. And of course, we're going on the green path as well. And we will be talking in March, date to be specified, about hydrogen-powered planes, etc. With that, again, a huge thanks. If you want to express your thanks, also don't hesitate to put it in the chat or the QA, put a smiley, whatever you want. And with those words, I thank you again all for your contributions and hope to see you in the next